Welcome again. My name is Brian Burke, Executive Director for the Center for Family Business. We are conducting a series of short interviews with all the mayoral candidates in Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge as the municipal election approaches. And joining me this time round is Dorothy McCabe. Hi, Dorothy.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for doing this. I'm happy to chat.
It's great to get the word out. Let's get this underway. And I've asked every candidate from Waterloo so far to try to solve this mystery. What is it about Waterloo that makes everyone with no political experience want to run? Like, why does this happen here and nowhere else?
Well, I wouldn't describe myself as someone with no political experience. I have worked for close to 20 years so I haven't been elected, that is true, but I've worked very closely as a key advisor and government relations professional with councils. I currently work for a municipal government, the town of Milton, and I work very closely with the mayor and council and the senior corporate leaders. And my role is to help them identify what their one or two or three, in some cases, key priorities are for the municipality. And then I advocate and work with stakeholders in the community, as well as provincial and federal representatives, to work to try and make the case to those other government bodies and advocate on behalf of the municipality. So I do that currently. I used to work as the chief of staff for Carl Zaire, former mayor of Kitchener, and a mentor, and his council. And prior to that, I was with John Malloy, former MPP and cabinet minister. So I've been one of those behind the scenes, very political people. And this time I'm running because for a number of reasons, but one of them is to, actually be the decision maker instead of being the key advisor.
So was there a moment then, Dorothy, where you said, I'm not in Kansas anymore, so I have to run for office now? I had to.
But bump. Sorry, I missed the rest of your question.
Was there a specific moment where you said, I have to run now?
Yeah, some of it actually, part of it came through COVID, and actually, I guess even over the last 4 years, particularly when I started thinking about running, I was thinking initially at the regional level, because for me, one of the main reasons that I'm running is about climate change, and I think there's some decisions that we need to make with greater urgency, specifically to address the climate crisis that we're facing. And so my mind was originally at the regional level, because they have carriage and responsibility for transportation, in the bike lanes, and some of those kind of initiatives, and certainly the official plan as well, like deciding what our boundaries were going to be. But then so that was initially where I decided, but then when Mayor Jaworski announced that he wasn't going to run, I thought, well, with my experience that I have and the love and interest that I have in public service and public office, why not make it full-time instead of the part-time role, and take my experience, and particularly my concern around issues like climate change, to the city, which is doing a pretty good job on some of those issues, but then also serve at the city as well as at the regional level.
There's a lot of talk, Dorothy, about housing, its affordability or lack of affordability. And look, I know I've sat on council. The impact you can have on gigantic issues like that can be somewhat solution. But what's your take on housing affordability, those problems?
Right, that is a big and complex challenge, as you well know, Brian, and likely some of your listeners know as well. I mean, one of the things at the affordable or supportive housing end that I really want to do, and I think the city has a key role to play, is that we need to keep some of our public lands in public hands. And so there are still some public lands, particularly out in the Rim Park area, where and some of those lands are spoken for. So I don't know, I haven't been privy to all the details around those, but I would like to keep a chunk of those lands in the city's control, and work with a nonprofit developer, or Meadow Homes or House of Friendship, or Inwell, or something like an organization, to build an affordable housing community. And I'm not talking about a ghetto, but like an actual affordable housing community. It could be LEED certified. It might be one of the first ones in Canada that achieves those green development standards, but has access to some amenities like, green space and maybe some office space and some retail, things like that. And then of course we'd need to improve the transit access out there as well, because Rim Park is a little bit far from, the LRT or some other, public services like that. But that's one of the things that I'd really like to tackle immediately as mayor, if I'm successful, is to work to see if we can secure, put that deal together to keep some of that land out there and to designate it as an affordable housing community. And then that, that's at the, that would address helping some people at that end of the spectrum, start to get into the housing market and hopefully, get some stability and then begin that hopeful transition to, other housing options. One of the other things that I think City Council needs to be really clear and firm about is that when there are we need more rentals and we need more 3-bedroom rentals. I think that helps families, and there's a real need for that as well. So those are a couple of things that I want to do on the affordable and affordability side of the ledger.
Of course, one of the problems in that is that generally governments, whether they're city or regional, don't want to be the landlord. So that's a complicating factor. And then also when you talk about the 3-bedroom and 2-bedroom units, the city doesn't control the market in many ways. It's a very, very, very complex issue. Let's go to another one that's particular to Waterloo. And we know that that homecoming was last week. We know that there were large groups of people having fun on the streets. I have joked with other candidates that there seem to be 2 camps on this. There's the camp that says, let's get the tear gas and water cannons out. And then there's the camp that says, let's have some fun. As big an issue as it is in Waterloo, as mayor, your take.
Yeah, another good question and a complex challenge, which has been, I mean, a few different solutions have been tried by, by the university and by the city. And so one of the things I'm wondering about, and again, I haven't been privy to all the discussions, but one of the ideas that I had was to see if it's possible to actually try and use the opportunity to empower the students and say, okay, so we're not being successful in trying to, limit and dissuade you from setting up these parties and things like that. So what if we gave you a fraction of what we're like some money to host their own party, and I'm talking a fraction of the money. Like we already spend well over $700,000 on security and enforcement and gating and all that kind of stuff. So maybe I don't know what it costs to throw a party of that nature, but say 50 grand. I don't throw parties like that. But if I did, I'll invite you, Brian. But
thank you.
But give them some resources and say, you know what, you can have Waterloo Park like over by the band shell for, set some hours and say, plan a party, hire a band, and see if that's a venue or a way to control it. And at least it's in a bigger area. So there's not that crowding issue, which is a huge safety concern. But so I don't know if that would work, but I think it's a conversation that might be interesting to the students and say, let's actually work together on this and see if there's another solution. The other thing, of course, is that with the other universities and colleges is to try and work with them to just say, and the cities, like students from all kinds and youth from all kinds of other communities are coming here as well. This isn't just Laurier and University of Waterloo and Conestoga College kids. They're coming from all over. So what can you do in your communities to make it more enticing for them to stay there? And again, not have that mass appeal and that creates some of those safety issues. So my last name is McCabe, and so St. Patrick's Day has traditionally been something that, we celebrate very responsibly in my family, and we've made leprechaun traps and everything. I get it's a fun holiday. And I know that the students are obviously really important to our local, the vibrancy of our city and to our local economy, and they bring a lot to the community. And I'm a Laurier grad too, but, I am very worried at how unsafe these have become. And so again, the potential for maybe giving them the opportunity and a bit of money to try and plan their own party and see if that's another solution for this situation.
Yeah, it is difficult because first of all, these parties are organic. There's no individual organizer, so I don't even know who you talk to start with. And secondly, I had this thought in the back of my mind that says nobody wants to go to a party with their mom and dad's permission. So I wonder how all that balances out, right?
Yeah.
It's difficult, but I think the more that we kind of have those to
Mhm.
maybe figure this out. And
Right.
again, nobody wants to go to mom and dad's party.
No, it's
Um,
true. It's true.
I know we are running a little bit out of time, so I kind of like to ask every candidate the same thing. You can't possibly physically visit everybody at the same time. So what's your minute and a half on the doorstep when
Oh,
you do get a
thanks
chance
again.
to meet someone? Here's your
So what
opportunity.
I focus on telling people is kind of how I started, is that I haven't been in elected office before. Um, and as you said, Waterloo does have a bit of a tradition. Of the last two mayors weren't, but I actually, because of the experience I have in working in municipal government and working with mayor and council and working with senior administration for municipalities, I have the experience. I know how the systems work. I know most of the issues. Of course, there'll be some learning curve, but this isn't going to be a situation like, I think Dave Jaworski described it as drinking from a fire hose. I've already done that. I've already been there. I'm prepared and ready and can start leading from day one because I'm already in the system and working and have relationships established and as I said, ready to start day one.